Hi, it's Troy Larson, founder of Coda Magic, and today we start preseason training on learning how to build packs. And today we're going to set up our environment so that you can start to build your own packs. This is specifically for Windows users, so if you're not a Windows user, you want to look at the Mac version of the video, which is very similar but geared toward Mac. Today, this is focused on Windows users. And this is for someone who's never built a pack before, who's never even coded before. We're going to start with the basics. You can start learning how to build packs. Okay, so we're going to start by installing 3 pieces of software that are required. And here's how it's going to work. I'm going to give you a link down below, which has our preseason training information with the links that you need. If I give you links to the files today, the versions will change and things will be updated tomorrow. So as much as I would love to give you the exact download files, it's not realistic because things are always changing. And we'll keep our preseason training documentation up to date, so you'll always have the latest links. But let's get started. So when you're building packs in Coda, we're going to build them in Visual Studio Code, which is basically an editor. It's just like a text editor like Microsoft Word or Google Docs. It really isn't complicated to use. But the actual code that runs the packs, we need to install some prerequisite software first. And I'm not going to get too technical on that. I will get technical a little bit later. When we get into season 1, I'm going to hit more on the technical side. But today we're just going to talk about getting things set up, how I would recommend setting up your environment. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is install a program called Node or Node.js. It's a program you may have heard of before. And Node is basically a program that runs software. It runs JavaScript. And all of the code that we're working in for packs is TypeScript, which is a kind of an offshoot of JavaScript. But basically you're working in JavaScript. And Node is the engine that runs it. We're going to have all this code for our packs that's sitting on our computer, but our computer doesn't know what to do with it if it can't read it. And so that's what Node does. Node will read the code and then execute the code. Let's go ahead and do that first. So again, the pages I'm pulling from for the installs may look a little bit different. I can't promise that this is what it's going to look like a month from now, a week from now, but use the documentation below, the link to the preseason documentation for all of the links. I'm going to go ahead and install NVM for Windows. Now, NVM is simply a program that manages Node. Node is the engine that runs the code. One of the annoying things with Node is there's lots of different versions of Node. Version 18, version 19, version 20, version 22. And all of these versions do have slightly different features. Some things are taken out, some things are added. So we want to make sure that we're using a version of Node that is supported. And so while we could install Node version 18 directly, what NVM stands for Node Version Manager, what this does is it lets us pick which version we want and it downloads and installs it for us and lets us choose different versions. So let's say we're using Node 20, which is what we're going to use today. And let's say that Coda comes out in 6 months and says, we no longer support Node version 20. You have to have Node version 22. We can use Node NVM, to install version 22 and quickly switch to the new version. So it's a really awesome tool. So we're going to click on download now, and then we're going to click on NVM setup, and then I'm in my installer. Now, just so you know, this is a brand new Windows 11 machine. I have not pre-installed anything. It's right out of the box. So nothing is pre-prepared. This is not a Martha Stewart cooking show. I don't have something secretly in the oven ready to go. So I'm actually installing this just like you are. So it's going to take as long as it takes you, or it should. All right, so we're just going to click next through all of these. We don't need to pick any additional options. Great, that's it. So NVM is installed. Now, the next thing we want to do is install Visual Studio Code. And again, the page may be different, but look for the Windows button, the big one, and it's downloading. It's up here. And again, Visual Studio Code has tons of cool stuff. If you are a developer and you've not used Visual Studio Code, I highly recommend it. There's lots of ways to write packs, other tools that you can use to edit your stuff, but I personally love Visual Studio Code. Okay, so we open that up. Again, accept all the way through. If you want to create an icon, you can. I don't do that. I'm not a big fan of the desktop icons. I never use them, and they clutter everything up. I use the keyboard heavily, so I never click on the icons. Visual Studio Code is very lightweight. It's really fast. So even if your machine isn't very high powered, it's going to run pretty efficiently. It's not like a big memory hog. Okay, and we're going to uncheck that because we don't want to start it yet. Okay, so Visual Studio is installed. NVM is installed. Now we're going to open up, install Git. Okay, this, I'm pretty sure the version will be different, but we want to download for Windows. And then we want to click here to download the latest version. And here we go again. Now, what is Git? Git is for managing your source control. What is source control? Source control is how we version our software. Now, you won't use this in our preseason training. This is down the road in our, when we get into season 1. Git is really made for managing as you make changes to your code, being able to track those changes and go back to previous changes. So if you, for example, let me go ahead and start this while we're talking. So next. Now, if you know Git and you know what options you want, you can pick them, but I'm just going to take the defaults here because we don't, for our purposes right now, we don't need to really do anything different. So we'll just keep next all the way through. There's lots of options. So many options. All right. So source control is how developers make changes to a system. So when a developer changes a line of code, they can do what's called a check-in of that code. So if they change one line, they can check it in. And then they change 5 more lines of code, they can check that in. And each one of those check-ins, they can go back at any point and revert the code back. So we've all seen in recent days serious system crashes where things have happened because bad code was checked in. And so typically when you run your code, when you were editing Word documents or Google Docs, you're just kind of hitting save, and Google Docs does it automatically. But actually, Google Docs does have history, so I shouldn't say that. But Microsoft Word, you save the entire document. You don't really have a concept of, I want to go back to a previous edit. You can turn on revision editing. But the idea behind Get is that when we're making code changes, we want to put check-ins as much as we can so we can always go back to a previous version. Because as you're playing with code, you're going to break stuff. And sometimes you make a lot of changes and then you test it and you go, oh my gosh, I really broke it. And you want to put it back the way it was. And so that's why we have Get. Get's used for lots of other things, but that's kind of the main thing. Okay, we don't need to worry about the release notes unless you're absolutely curious about release notes. I'm a release notes junkie, so I love release notes. Okay, we are done. Now we're going to open up Visual Studio Code. In Visual Studio Code, again, this is a brand new machine, clean. I've not done anything. You should be experiencing the same thing that I am. All right, and you can pick your theme. I will pick the dark theme because old man, glasses, I will go blind with the white theme. Great. Let's maximize this so we get a full screen. Okay, now in Visual Studio Code, there is a number one crucial command that you've got to memorize. It's a bit awkward at first, but it will become second nature. And that is Control-Shift-P. What that does is it brings up every option that's available within Visual Studio Code. Every option. You can do anything if you don't know where something is. If you don't know where a function is, you can use Control-Shift-P and start typing, and you'll get the option that you can run. So if I want to open a file and I don't know where if I don't want to use file open, I can come over here and do Control-Shift-P and do file open, and there it is. And then I can press enter and it opens up my files. Now, when I go back, Control-Shift-P again, there is my open file. It remembers your most recently used commands, and it keeps them at the top. So if you use commands frequently, they're always going to be at the top. And I use Control-Shift-P all the time. Even though an option may be up here, it may be faster for me just to go Control-Shift-P and then enter the command that way. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a folder, but we're going to create a folder at the same time. So open a folder, pick a folder. You can use whatever you want. And I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to my documents and I'm going to right click here and I'm going to say new folder. And let's call this pre-season pack training. Okay. And I'm going to select that folder. Awesome. Now you're going to get this thing here. Do you trust the authors of the files of this folder? So if you trust yourself, click yes. If you don't trust yourself, then you may want to see somebody about that. That's beyond the scope of this training. Okay, so now we're going to go and open up a terminal window. We're going to have to run some commands. I promise it's not super technical, but we need to run a couple of commands to work with our packs and to get things set up. So Control-Shift-P, and we type create new terminal. Now you're going to see a few different options for terminal. You want to pick this one, terminal, create new terminal. And it's going to open up a terminal down below. And this is simply a place where we can run commands on our Windows box. So I'm going to type NVM and we get this nice help message, which means NVM is working. Now, if I type in NVM list, what that does is it says, what version of Node am I running? Remember, we talked at the very beginning that we need Node.js installed to be able to run the code. So I'm going to do NVM list, no inversions install. So what I'm going to do is do NVM install LTS, which is the long-term support version of Node. And long-term support means it's kind of the standard supported version right now. We can install like a beta version. We can install the absolute latest, but LTS is kind of that's the safe version to install. So we're going to go ahead and do that and watch how quickly this works. You see how it's downloading. We're not going to a website. We're not going into running through a setup wizard. It's doing all of this for us super fast. So if we want to install version 22, we can type in NVM install v22 and it would install that. Okay, so now we've installed it. Now we need to tell our Windows system that we want to use this version. So now we do NVM use LTS. Okay, it's going to pop up this message, and you may get this message in other places. Again, this is a brand new Windows box, so I haven't changed anything. Yes, we want to allow that. And now we're using Node 2015.1. How do I know that this worked? Type NODE, Node, version, and there we go. We're all set. Okay, now what's next? We want to build packs. So now the fun stuff. So by the way, this is something you only need to do once. So once you've set this up, once you've set up NVM and Node and installed the right version and you're using the version and you've tested that the version works, you're done with this. You don't need to do this again. You're done. So forget this until down the road if they change the Node version that you need, but you don't need to do this anymore. Okay, so I'm going to type CLEAR to clear all the noise off the page so it becomes a little more readable. Okay, now the fun part. We're going to install the Coda pack library. Now, to do this, we're going to use a command called npm. This command here, and I will show you. I'm going to paste it, and it is npm, which is Node Package Manager. Node Package Manager is simply a tool that allows you to install additional packages that run inside Node. There are thousands of packages, thousands of cool stuff that you can do with Node, and one of them is Coda, and it's going to install the Pax SDK. We'll go ahead and press enter, and that is going to run. Now, when you say Pax SDK, what's an SDK? It's a software development kit. It simply means it's a library for us, for developers, people that want to connect to Coda. It's an SDK that allows us to programmatically interact with Coda. So this is running, and we are we're going to wait for this to go. This is usually pretty quick. It's usually a couple minutes, or less than a minute, depending on the speed of your system. And then over on the left, you're going to see in the folder that we opened, you're going to see this Node modules with tons of folders, and you're going to see 2 more files pop up. You can ignore all of this. This is just system Node stuff. This is just required for Node to be able to run the Pack SDK. So this is simply a configuration file. This is a configuration file. Pretend these files don't exist. You don't need to go in here. Don't worry about what it means. Don't go in there. Stay out of there. I never edit this file. I never edit anything in these folders. This is completely just foundational for the Pack. Okay, and we get a little message here saying, hey, you want to upgrade your NPM version, which we're not going to do that right now. You can feel free to do that. It shouldn't hurt anything. Okay, so now we have our Pack SDK installed. Now, at this point, everything in Coda that we want to do, we do via this command line in this terminal. So anytime that I want to pop back in here, I can do Control-Shift-P, and I already have my terminal at the top, and I can then, I'm back in here, and I'm going to type in npx, which stands for basically Node Package Execute. So run a package, and I'm going to run the Coda package. So if I run Coda by itself, let's just do Coda help, not code. You're going to do that a lot. I do that all the time. Don't type code. I did that just as a show you. I didn't do that on purpose. But this is Node Coda help. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you a help message that shows you all the cool stuff that you can do. We're going to talk about all of this in, once we get into season 1, season 2. This is not for preseason training. But this tells you that, hey, you did it right. You have Coda installed. What we're going to do is we're going to do npx Coda. And if you look in here, there is a command called init. And init initializes an empty pack. So we're going to type npx Coda init. Now, this will take a second. It's going to install some additional packages. It's going to may prompt you to install a package, which is fine. But what this is going to do is it's going to basically set up development folder. So just for this folder, preseason pack training, it's going to set everything up in here for us to run a pack. And it's got, and see, I have this package file open, so you can see it's already adding pack examples. It's going to add additional libraries in here. And all of this is, again, stuff you don't need to worry about. This is really just so it can run the packs. Okay. And you're going to get a message here that says, would you like to proceed? And we'll say yes. Okay, so now everything is set up for this project. And now we have 2 additional files. This is another file you don't need to worry about, just a configuration file. And now we have our pack.ts. This is the main, most important file of your entire project. This is the file that's used by Coda to learn about what your pack does. So we need this file in here. And we're not going to actually go into in-depth code. The goal of this is just to get your system set up so that you can build packs. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy and paste a formula that I've already created for saying hello. Okay, so we have in here a simple formula that says hello name, right? So I'm going to come in here and save this before I explain to you how this works. And what we're going to do is we're going to type npx Coda, and then we run the execute command, pack.ts, because that's where our pack lives. And then we type simple formula and then name. Now, if you did this and it worked, you have created your first pack. Your first pack is working. Now, we haven't uploaded it to Coda. We haven't registered it yet, but your pack is working. This is actually running. So when you do this npx coda execute, you're actually running the pack in the identical way that it's running in Coda. So whatever this does here will be the same in Coda. Okay, so now I want to come in here and say, simple formula, that's a stupid name. We want this to be greet, okay? Save, don't forget to save, come back down here, and I'm going to do up arrow. Up arrow in your command line gives you your previous command. And instead of simple formula, we'll call this greet. And now we have a nice greet formula. Now, in this pack, I don't want to go too deep into this because we're going to talk about this in season 1. But just to kind of give you an idea of what we're doing here is we create a formula. This is a command, add formula. We're giving it a name. We're giving it a parameter. We have one parameter, which is the name. And then we pass that parameter into our function, and it returns back hello, comma, and then this is like a placeholder for name. So we're basically saying, return back string hello, comma, and then insert name here. So if I wanted to, we could change this to be first name, and then paste, and then change this to last name. We'll say last name, first name, and then here I'm going to change this to be first name, last name, first name, and then we're going to copy this placeholder and I'm going to paste it and then change this to last name. Cool. So now instead of just first name, we're going to have first name, last name, and then hello. Now we run this, greet Troy Larson. Now we have a pack that gives us hello, first and last name. All right, we are done. So you have created your first pack. We've not uploaded it yet to Coda. We've not registered it yet, but that's fine. We're going to do that in the next video. But I hope you realize how easy this is. You now have all the building blocks, all the tools that you need to build packs in Coda. So you can fire up your Visual Studio Code. You can install the Coda SDK node package, do a Coda init to set up your test pack, and then you can start building. We're going to use this in the future to build our packs. All right, so we've built our first pack. This is exciting, and we're going to work on uploading this to Coda and registering it in the next video. So for now, if you have any questions about this or anything related to pack development or even Coda, join us at LinkedIn at the Coda Makers Hub group. The link is below. You can also sign up for my daily email, Coda Magic Daily. It's phenomenal. It's got awesome stuff every single day, written fresh every day, nothing stale, nothing reused, tons of information about packs and the latest pack updates. So I will see you in the next video where we're going to learn about how to actually register and deploy your pack to Coda.